Well, that's 3 hours of my life I'll never get back. I'm John Redland with a review of two Netflix originals, two foreign horror movies that I just watched. Menendez, The Day of the Lord, and Kaali Khuhi. I hope I pronounced that right. It means the Blackwell in English. And I gave away how I felt about them. Both these movies were shit. Like any multi-film review that I do, there will be spoilers throughout. But yeah, I've seen some good foreign horror movies this year. I've seen some good horror movies. I've seen some bad ones, both American and foreign. And my god, these are two of the worst, and I'm willing to give just about anything a fucking chance. And I wanted to like one of these, and one of them actually had some good atmospheric, shots to it, and actually had a pretty cool setting. But yeah, both were just absolute ass for a variety of reasons. So, Menendez, The Day of the Lord. He got a retired priest that is sulking and drinking and just depressed because he did an exorcism for a lady to try and save her son. The son died, and this lady still comes around and talks to him. Maybe. You kind of maybe think that this is all in his head and he's just been, fucked up in the head all this time and has been fucked up in the head for a variety of reasons, because we open with him being transported in like an armored vehicle, to a prison or something like that. And, oh, he's the evil priest, the deranged priest. It seems to be saying of something where, like, okay, we're going to get a really, really cool story here, and we really don't, because it's a slow burn, but not the good kind of slow burn. Because the slow burn keeps you interested, gives you enough stuff to where you want to see where it goes, like The Witch and a few others. The Lodge. The Lodge is a perfect example of a slow burn horror movie. This was not a good slow burn horror movie because he, doesn't have that many friends. He keeps getting phone calls where he's talking to people, and that factors in a little bit later because the phone rings occasionally and everything's like, oh, this kind of stuff. Well, you need to come over, da da da. What the hell's going on? And then suddenly, a friend of his, Sebastian, shows up and says, my daughter Raquel is possessed. You need to help me. Please help me. I'm no longer a priest. You have to help me. She's possessed. She's clearly evil. So he agrees to have her brought to his house. She doesn't want to be there. She tries to leave a bit later. Tries to tase him, but the taser's turned on her because she aims it wrong. Shocks herself. And then he's trying to, he basically changes her clothes while she's sleeping. And then, wakes her up with some tea. That's a normal thing to do. We find out a little bit later that maybe there was a reason he did that, or maybe that he's a creep. So, yeah, she basically acts weirder, more and more. There's like subtle hints that she may be possessed, or she may just be crazy, or that the priest may be crazy. And it took like about halfway through to a dinner scene where like stuff started to actually kind of unfold a little bit. They're talking. He keeps just looking at her while she's eating. She's talking about a party she went to for an older guy that she was seeing. She doesn't remember much of anything. And then she decides to do a dance for the priest while he listens to the music. And it's the sexy time dance, if you will. And then later, it looks like he's about to kiss her in her bedroom. And then he headbutts her and ties her up because he realizes she's possessed. Why does he realize? Well, he calls Sebastian a little bit after. He decides to put the taser on a pole and shock the puddle of piss where, she expelled it. And, lying is a sin. You have to stop this. So she's getting shocked. Please, please, let me go. Da, da, da. Calls the dad and says, you need to get over here. Your daughter's goddamn possessed. Gets all these weapons together, tapes up his fist, highlights some scripture for the dad to read, and then has his fist taped. And the actual line, I wrote this down, I'm going to fuck Satan, is an actual translated line in this movie. You thought I should have been on board with this. Had this been comedic and had this just gone balls to the wall mental, with the comedy and, being a horror comedy, I might have actually been on board. But no, they treated this seriously when they shouldn't have. They should have made this ridiculous. Because all it ended up being was just, bad and plotting and everything, and nobody really cared about any of the characters. So he has weapons, brass knucks, he punches the devil out. That's the idea. He's going to punch the evil out of the girl. He then gets wrenches and starts beating her. He's doing a whole lot of stuff. He starts removing her nails. The dad, who was there reading these scriptures underneath the mask at first, and then she realizes who he is, he suddenly knocks the priest down. No, leave my daughter alone, frees her, and she is possessed by a devil. Just suddenly. We just decide, third act twist, she's possessed. Not that the priest is insane. And at least then the movie comes alive a little bit. The character Raquel has a little bit of fun. Really, really beautiful girl, by the way. Really beautiful woman. She only, she looked like she was, she's gonna age like a fine wine or whatever, because I thought she was maybe 21. She's actually 30, so good on her for having the good genetics, and she has the stage presence and the screen presence to actually have a pretty good career. I'd like to know more of the movies that she was in, and I hope they're better than this one. So this was Yeah, this was absolutely fucking ridiculous. Eventually, Menendez gets tied up. The Menendez brothers gets tied up. No, I'm just kidding. And so is the father. Then the demon, the girl demon, gives oral to the dad while he's like screaming, "What is my daughter doing?" Well, then he suddenly decides to, he gets freed and everything. Menendez gets freed and starts to punch the devil out again while she's chained up, and it's a horrible chain of events, if you will. And yeah, then the daughter is freed, but Menendez is like, no, you have to go and everything because there's this evil happening. This blobbish, devil pops out, and then off screen, he kills it apparently, and then comes up and he can't barely breathe. He's like out of breath. He's like all beat up, and says, "Hey, you need to go. You guys need to get out of here. The police are going to be here soon." Because earlier, the daughter, while possessed, pretended to not be possessed to call the police. And he's on the phone. "Oh, yes, it's done. Thank you. I can't wait to be there in heaven." And the phone's disconnected. So maybe it was all in his head. And then there's some possessed nun that shows up that it just suddenly is there for whatever fucking reason. Can't recommend at all. F. It gets a fucking F. It's goddamn ridiculous. So fucking goddamn bad. If it was all in his head and they had actually, explained that better, it might have been okay. But they really should have just gone full on comedy here. Now, Kaali Khuhi, okay, it means the black well. This movie proves that you can have great atmosphere and if nothing happens, it just won't fucking matter. I'm going to be quick here. 10-year-old girl must save her family's village after, when a curse befalls it and has befallen everybody. And it all ties back to something that her father was part of back when he was 5 years old. And this girl was apparently like using a ritual and stuff like that and wasn't saved. And there's this well where this baby and other bodies were buried and everything. And suddenly the black well is freed. And everybody's cursed with this black stuff. So here's the question. Maybe it's in the water supply. Maybe it's not. All the scenarios I'm coming up with, all one of them, were more interesting than what this did. This didn't come up with anything. Nothing happens except like the occasional, oh, spoopy ghost. And that's it. Like, nobody has any character to them. Again, the atmosphere is really cool. The set is really cool. Or like the village, it really looks like it could be a haunted village. So if they had had any material behind it, it would have actually been pretty goddamn good. But yeah, we get some flashbacks and everything. We find out more about this stuff. And maybe this would be scarier in its own country. I believe India, if I'm right. Maybe this would be scarier there. I don't have a goddamn clue. But it wasn't scary at all here. I mean, it's just, good God, there's like, people make dumb decisions. They go to this weird, like, second floor area in this house where apparently this ritual happened. And people keep dying or keep getting sick or getting possessed or whatever. And there's maybe like 20 people in this entire movie that actually with extras, I think it might have been 40, but there's only like 5 people they even focus on. The village seems totally fucking deserted, probably because they couldn't afford anybody to be in there. And leave and don't look back during a flashback where this girl, like, what is going on? Why are you spitting black goo up? Oh, it turns out this ghostly girl who then starts possessing everybody. And this one girl, what is her? Shavingi has to basically free her. Has to say, I'm going to save you. I'm going to rescue you from this ritual. This demonic. It makes no sense. I don't even understand what happened. I tried to make heads or tails of it. It wasn't that I was confused in an entertaining way. I was just like, all these are just random scenes popping up. They show a black well. They at least, it wasn't false advertising there. Also, they kept a buffalo. Who the fuck keeps a buffalo? And why was there blood in the buffalo's milk? Why did I care that there was blood in the buffalo's milk? I don't know. Her friend was possessed. She had a friend in this village, faraway village. And then the friend gets possessed and stabs one of the ants, and I mean the ant, not like stabs an actual like farmer ant. As funny as that would have been, stabbing like them. Actually, you know what? I would have liked giant ants to show up in this movie because it would have somehow been more grounded than the bullshit they were showing. And yeah, all this, one of the funniest scenes I think is after the mother character dies, or the grandmother. She's being carried over this bridge, and then suddenly her body just spontaneously combusts. I don't know why that made me laugh. It just did. Again, maybe this would be scarier if I was part of Indian culture or I understood more about Indian horror movies, but just translated, because I watch it with the original track and watch it with English subtitles, it's nothing. This movie is absolutely nothing. And she basically saves this girl somehow, and then everybody's good, and then it ends. And that's it. That's really all we have here. It's two terrible foreign horror movies. And the Blackwell, I'm just going to call it that, was actually worse. And the sad thing is that one had a little bit more potential. The Day of the Lord was just dog shit because it didn't go the comedy route. Anyway, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.